I did say we were going to do an odd one a couple of films ago, and then I put the Heinkel up. I don't know why. There's nothing weird about, well, apart from the nose, there's nothing weird about the Heinkel. So now we're on to the weird one, or odd one, I suppose. Nothing too weird. But get on with it, man. What we are going to do today is a peel tower, based on some of the parts from a set by Miniart. We'll come on to what a peel tower is shortly, and it's going to be on a base by Amera Plastics, I think they're called, and they do kind of vacuum moulded little diorama bases, which I personally love. I think they're great fun. They kick off the imagination. We'll have a quick look at some of them. And what I'm aiming to do is come up with something like a peel tower, kind of tower you get around here, small medieval things, but kind of, I want it to look a little bit kind of wonky and like it's been bashed about over the years and things have been added and cut off and all of that, and a bit grim and sloppy. And I wasn't supposed to be doing anything like this, really, was I? Just making things straight out of the box. But there was just this little whim came over me a while ago, and that's what I did. Right, worth just showing this. This is a very good model of a castle. Let's put it that way. It comes with figures. I've taken them out. The box is a bit battered now. Anyway, that's the basic stuff, and what we're going to do is consider the castle, because I keep making a mess of explaining how these castle models come. This is by Miniart, and they do a very, very basic layout of parts. I think generally you just get sort of two basic fundamental sprues. You just happen to get loads and loads of them. And from that you can build this castle. You can get other sets where you can build bigger ones, and I've got those. But basically, because it's so uniform and so utilitarian, you can build all sorts with it. So I keep buying more and more, so that I can make more and more. It's very flexible is what I'm saying. So this is your basics. And that's the sort of main sprue. That gives you almost everything you need, really, and you just get it over and over again. This is the second type of sprue, remarkably similar. But those two that we saw before are largely towers. These are curtain walls with some extra bits, like floor for the towers, just because they fit. And that's another one, exactly the same. So in this case I have got 4 sprues, and there are 2 types, so you get them in pairs. And with that you can do wonders, you really can. The Zvezda model works on the same principle, just a basic couple of sprue types over and over again, but they do as well as boxy rectangular and square towers, they do circular towers. And to be quite honest, the way castles were built and rebuilt and modified on a constant basis, you can combine all of these and probably many more to create a fabulous castle of your own. I do like these pictures. They're quite old-fashioned, aren't they? There's a nice night just toddling off somewhere, and here we are with our very, very basic castle. And look, Cross of St. George, I think, popular in many nations during the Middle Ages. I did have a shot of the base, but I've lost it, so I'll show you some other things by Amera and you'll get the idea, and then you'll see the base painted. And that should, I mean, this should give an idea. Here's some small ones of blown up houses, and as I say, they're kind of lots of fun. So what I'm going to do is take the base, paint it up, and then I can use it however I please. Then I will put the castle peel tower in the centre because it fits perfectly, and it's optional, don't have to glue it and sit it in. The interesting thing about the base that I haven't got any shots of, that we'll see in a moment, is it is marketed as sort of 25, 6, 7, 8 millimeters or 1/72nd, which is great because around here the earlier you go, the bigger the blocks as far as local masonry goes. So this base could be an early thing and then the tower's been added later. Perfect. Here we have basic wall sections stuck together to the appropriate proportions. Funny little patches you see around the crenellations are actually part of a set, so this is sort of what you're meant to do. It begs to have an awful lot of filling in it, but I'm probably gonna fill around the crenellations but not down the wall, because I want it to look like something has been stuck on, as if it's been enlarged, and then the top has gone through an awful lot of changes beyond that. That's the plan. Then I'm probably going to put a small corner turret on and a little more. It just needs one side being a little bit disproportionate and a bit, you know, individualistic perhaps. Anyway, so here we can see the bits and pieces glued together, the basics, and on we go. Worth mentioning though at this point, what's a peel tower? And I'm basing it on sort of northern towers, usually called peel towers, and peel means a worked piece of land, so it's a defence for your farm in effect. And these pertain to the reavers up on the borders, kind of like cowboys. Well, not cowboys I suppose, but the bandits of the Wild West. So these are bandits of the Wild North, and there was so much raiding going on that folks had to build themselves small, compact family towers. Very often they're attached to sort of fortified farms, or sometimes, more often, over the border into Scotland, but not exclusively. They sit in something similar to this, sometimes a bit bigger, called a barmkin. So I'm doing a sort of odd version of one of those. In fact, if I'm out and about shortly, I'll take the camera and I'll show you some of the ones not too far from where I live, and they all sort of overlook one another in the landscape. They're not too close, but you know, you can see one from the other. Here's an image of just such a peel tower in its peel. That's the kind of courtyard with farm buildings. Very often the walls around the courtyard are higher and crenellated, but what is interesting is it has a gatehouse, a very simple one, just to protect the to-in and fro-in where it's most vulnerable. So that's an average, typical one. This all deserves a film of its own, but never mind, we'll do that another day. This is Corbridge, the Vicar's Peel, which sits in the churchyard. It's a very, very good example. On the other hand, the cameraman is rubbish, and he doesn't get any better. Look, this will focus eventually, and it's a corner of a tower at Heppel, and it's actually in somebody's front garden. This is the kind of thing they end up being these days. Well, when I set off it was a nice day. Now it's raining. But it looks quite good really, doesn't it? Look at that. And there's a crow right on top. This is the wonderfully named Tosson Tower. That's all that's left of it. Just one corner. you get an idea of the mass of the thing. What's very interesting is its location relative to other stuff. Let's have a look over there. And this is the Coquet Valley. Rothbury's on the right, and we're heading towards Thropton, Snitter, Cheviot's in the distance with clouds upon them, and just down the valley, down there, masked by the trees really, is Heppel, which has another tower. And as the crow flies, what, 2 miles away? And Callally, mile and a bit. All sort of private towers for anybody who can afford to build one. But it shows how this area felt threatened, and people had to fortify it that heavily. And finally, for now, the tower at Long Horsley, which has had a lot of windows put in it because people still live there. So it's somebody's home, so we won't poke around too much. But again, gives you a good example of these kind of things. We'll do more on this another time. I'll do a little film. I'll get in the car and film stuff. I meant to show this with just the filler on, without the paint, so all the different holes and joins would be highlighted. But I got overexcited, carried away, and sprayed it in a dark brown undercoat with some gaps around these windows. Don't worry, they won't be painted nicely white at the end. Oh, and this turret roof isn't in any way complete, just a base. So there it is coming along. I'm going to give it a lighter spray now to kind of highlight things so that I can see what I'm working with, and then stick a few more bits on, I suppose, tidy it up. And there we are, done. The two different things do fit together rather nicely. They were kind of asking to be put together. I think the contrasting styles of, I guess, construction, design by the two different sets of companies, it works for me. That's what I had in mind. And the two different painting styles I'm happy with. Obviously the idea is that I can use each one separately, and the whole thing therefore is an experiment of some sort or another. So the experiment I'm happy with. Does it work? It's okay. Yes, it works for me. And what have I learnt? Well, I've learnt about things like corners and joins an awful lot. I'm rather fond of the wobbly turret roof. That's quite what I had in mind. Something a little bit elven. Perhaps I don't mean that, but something a little bit fantasy. So that's good for me. It might not be to everybody's tastes. I think one of the other things that comes through... Oh, hello, the cat's grumbling. One of the other things that comes through is that these Amera bases are really good and very adaptable in many respects. So there's other little ones I'm looking forward to, and there really are sort of lots of options there. So I'll be looking out for more. The other thing that comes out of this is that if I'm going to do this on a larger scale and make a larger castle, I am going to have to buy a lot of fillet and milliput and prepare for a lot of carving, because the corner joins on the Miniart model do need an awful lot of work. But in this case, as I say, that's working for me. It's all okay. But only, I think, only in this case, because it's a little bit of a jokey thing. Now I've done it, I don't actually know what I'm going to do with it. There wasn't a further part to the plan. Oh, I haven't finished painting that. Oh, there's always something, isn't there? You go, oh, right, all done. I'm going to have to start writing lists. Anyway, I'm not quite sure what to do with it next. The lighting's crazy and a bit dramatic, but personally I'm enjoying that too. No accounting for taste, is there? Basically, forgive the figures. I know they're the key feature in this, but they're not even half painted yet. But I've just put them in to see how it kind of shapes up. Does that look plausible? I suppose it does, doesn't it? Not too bad. I have to admit, the background and the lighting and the whole setup, despite my attempts at making a medieval environment, all look a bit surreal. It's like something out of a German expressionist film from the 20s. Which is alright, that's good. That's good. 100th anniversary Dr. Caligari coming up, don't forget. Anyway, so in the pre-Caligari medieval period, here's some chaps. Now, there has been some chat in the comment section about animating something. Here's the temptation. I just need the time. How much time? It takes a long time. I did animate a medieval battle when I was a student, and it took months. But you can see the temptation, can't you? Just possible. Right, there we are. So it is done. It kind of came out the way I wanted. I think the painting of it is okay. The filling issues, as ever. I didn't want to overdo it on that, because you end up sculpting the whole thing rather than just putting it together. As I said earlier, that'll be for another day. But there it is. I feel like it needs to go out in the countryside, so here's a few shots. You just get a slightly different lighting and things feel a bit different, particularly with different backgrounds. So we get a bit of an idea, and a bit of an idea of how it would look out there. And I do have another model of a Peel Tower with its courtyard, which I made earlier for completely different reasons, and then it got smashed to pieces. So I'll show that as a repair job, I think, but that'll be a while away yet. And yes, I think I'll do a little film about Peel Towers properly and show some of the local ones. How about that? So there we are. Thanks for watching as ever. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll come up with something else, and hopefully I'll come up with something else a bit sooner than I have recently. So see you very soon.